Hello everyone and welcome back to another instalment of the Warwick F1 show. It is now just over 2 weeks until we are back racing in Melbourne, and that means that we thought we wanted to see what the rest of the world thought about their predictions going into the 2025 season, a very anticipated season. And so we consulted the source of all knowledge, all truth and integrity, that is none other than Twitter, or X as one person calls it, to see what people on there were thinking was going to happen this season. So we're just going to go through some of these. Some are more outrageous than others. Some were definitely being more serious than others. But we're going to react to these in this episode. I'm your host, Callum, once again. And I'm also once again joined by our Society President, Catch, and also returning guest, Anwar. Thank you both very much for joining me. So we have got, as I mentioned, we have got a few serious suggestions for here. And I think we'll do a mixture of these and then some people who are just spending too much time on Twitter and are typing this kind of nonsense, which we're about to hear. So we're heading to the first one straight away, which I think is going to be... Now, a lot of people have said this that I've seen, straight into it. Oscar outscores Lando in the World Drivers' Championship. What do we think? Because I know we're going to have two very different opinions from you guys here.
I don't think he's consistent enough for this to be a reality. I think he's become a little bit overrated because I don't think he was particularly amazing last season.
To be fair, though, he did have some periods where he dropped off, didn't he?
I mean, you don't get beaten 20-24 in qualifying and then have the balls to say that you're going to be beating Lando Norris. I don't think that's a fair assessment of things. I think he's definitely got potential, but he needs to display pace on a more consistent basis because currently I felt, although he had stand-up moments like Baku, I think he needs to become more on Lando's level in qualifying in order for this to become a potential possibility.
I think, and as well, if McLaren, which now they know that they're in a position to go for the Drivers' Championship ultimately because they know that their pace was that good last year and no doubt they are going to be up there this season, we can come to expect, unless something has gone drastically wrong. And you think that they're going to want to try and start prioritising a single driver because that's the mistake they did last year in a way. Although, yes, technically, I suppose it was always going to go the way of Verstappen in the end with how big the points gap was, but you're going to think that they're going to want to choose one driver over another pretty soon if they realise that they're in a position to do that. And you've got to think that that's got to be Lando Norris. He's the driver that McLaren, a bit like Charles Leclerc with Ferrari, that's the driver that they've invested so much time and money and effort into it. And as Anwar says, I just don't think Piastri is quite there yet. He was really impressive last season, but still, that's just, I think, maybe because hype, because of it's only his second season in, possibly something like that.
I think, the McLaren being so fast, so surprisingly on top of things, Lando getting those 4 wins, everyone, especially the early win in Miami, people they rate Oscar anyway. I don't think he's overhyped. I think it is going to be a really interesting dynamic come the start of the season if McLaren are where people predict them to be, which is right at the top, fighting with Ferrari and possibly Max Verstappen and then Red Bull. But I think Lando's got the momentum. He's got the momentum. He won Abu Dhabi. He's the most recent winner. He's coming into this season second in the championship from last season. He's got to be the priority. I think it's really... McLaren has such a stable team. They're one of the few teams that have kept the same team dynamic, that have kept the same lineup. Sure, that benefits Oscar really well, so he knows Lando's and his driving style inside out, but I don't think that's enough. Like Anwar was saying, I don't think that's enough to outperform Lando, especially in qualifying. Being 21-3, it is ridiculous.
On a completely separate note as well, I'd like to point out, so there's two main predictions that I've seen for the very top of the standings for 2025, and one of them is that Red Bull is going to have some downfall, which actually is one of the things that someone else predicted, which is on my list, is that Red Bull... I'm quoting here, Red Bull continue their implosion, which is brilliant, I think.
Amen to that.
So that being one, and then also that Ferrari are going to be challenging for the Drivers' Championship and the Constructors' Championship. But is this more hype than a reality? Because even though, yes, I suppose Ferrari, they were kind of definitely had the potential to win races come the end of the 2024 season. Is everyone just choosing to forget that Ferrari is Ferrari and they will probably still struggle to get going maybe a bit at the start of the season, perhaps?
I think that is something that I would attribute to the previous running of Ferrari. I think people see with Vasseur, they've turned over a new leaf a little. I think he's brought a new energy to that, to Ferrari, which I think has kind of meant that we think they can actually deliver on the promises that they make. So I think that's distinctly a possibility, but I will say I don't think this Red Bull implosion is necessarily a guarantee in any way. I actually do think they probably put their foot off the gas a bit at the beginning of last season and have probably got a little bit of an advantage in that regard because McLaren were pushing hard in a constructors fight last year, so they were consistently bringing upgrades to the car even in that latter stage. So I reckon it's a case where Red Bull will still be there. I think Ferrari will be there. McLaren should be there. There's pressure on McLaren here more than anything else.
They are the defending Constructors' Championship.
Exactly. And I think the Red Bull, as much as I love the narrative about the Red Bull implosion, it's probably been massively exaggerated because of Sergio Perez. And there is no Sergio Perez anymore. So the implosion probably won't be as extreme. The implosion looked really bad because on the driver's side, it was embarrassing what was happening to Perez. But on a technical side, we don't know whether it was an implosion. They just decided not to bring more upgrades. So we can't actually judge that. And Adrian Newey now being at Aston, sure, that could contribute to the narrative of an implosion. But I really doubt that. It's Red Bull. They've been so dominant, this regulations. We've got to remember this is, the 4th year of the regs? They've got such a strong foundation. There's no way that they're going to let 5 teams, for example, overtake them. That's not going to happen.
And also you say this the fall of Sergio Perez. I think maybe it is just a bit of hype that because Red Bull have been so dominant for so long, there's like the tiniest signs that they might be dropping down the green light and everyone's getting excited.
Everyone starts to panic.
But also they have got Liam Lawson this season, which is a big risk. And we've seen him in his F1 his new F1 2025 photos. He looks like he's just straight out of The Hangover or something.
He's gone for a real big surfer boy look.
He has actually,
Messy hair.
You're telling me that person can drive a car as good as Max Verstappen and get some good results?
No, but I think on behalf of Liam Lawson, I think what I've heard them saying in the media is they just want Liam to get constant points. They're not looking for him to get podiums alongside Max. Their expectation currently is regular top 10. I
mean, they need to change the narrative a little bit, I think, or in
they
how
need to give it breathing space.
Exactly, and how they approach the second seat, because they had this exact problem when Ricciardo left with Gasly, with Albon, where you could maybe argue that they gave a little bit too much pressure, as is very stereotypical of the Red Bull teams. Gave a little bit too much pressure, and then you let a potentially incredible driver like Gasly, like we've seen what Gasly can do in a car, and you let him go because the pressure is just too much for them in that very short period of time. So it would be, that maybe is something they want to consider.
What I will say about this whole really high pressure environment from Red Bull is it's proven that they can create a potential greatest of all time. So I don't necessarily, I'm not going to say that Gasly's not a good driver, but I don't think he's ever going to be in a world championship contending car. And I don't think he's ever going to be contending for that world championship. So I think their environment is a way of them testing, have they got the minerals to do that? So I don't think they will change tact and say, okay, we're going to put a little bit less pressure. I think they're going to keep the same amount of pressure as they usually do, especially considering the wealth of talent they have in the RBC, in junior formulae. I don't think they're going to change that. So I think there will be, you were saying constant points. I do think he needs a little bit more than constant points. Like, he needs to be getting a few podiums here and there.
Well, I think it's different methods of going about that, because the thing is, I suppose it's a bit better to give people a bit more chance, but maybe then they don't live up to what is ultimately the end goal of all of the academies, is to find a world champion. It's like if you were to take a child and just throw him in the deep end of the swimming pool. Yes, like many times.
You're not going to find Michael Phelps.
Yeah, exactly. No, but like many times you'll throw the kid in and they'll have to get rescued by the lifeguard. But then one time that kid will actually start swimming incredibly. It's like that. The alternative strategy is to just teach the kid how to swim gradually. So like it's so Red Bull do the former, and I guess I want to see a bit more of the latter, to use an analogy, I suppose.
think there naturally will be an easing of pressure because Red Bull are not the dominant car. They're not the dominant team. This is all like, we've only just had one day of preseason, and preseason means nothing, but also like you can tell they're not miles out in front. So I think naturally the pressure, or even if the internal pressure that Red Bull give Liam doesn't change, the natural pressure from the media will be less because people do not expect Max Verstappen to be outright winning every race. So people won't expect Liam Lawson to be outright coming second in every race.
Well, on the subject of Liam Lawson, I'm going to go with another prediction which I thought was quite interesting. Yuki Tsunoda replaces Liam Lawson mid-season.
Absolutely not. What are they on? Oh my gosh.
They like Lawson too much for this to happen.
Red Bull love that man.
They, despite all the signs, at least to the public, that Tsunoda was a better fit for that seat, they still went with Liam. I think they're pretty They wouldn't have put this much investment in terms of putting him back in the car mid-season, giving a little bit of a run the season prior. They're in this for a little bit more than half a season, so this is like a 0% chance of happening.
I think it certainly Liam Lawson would have to do absolutely shocking if I think Tsunoda has anywhere near a shout in with that seat. I think more realistically is maybe the end of the season. I think maybe they'd be wise enough to give Liam Lawson a full season in the car just to see what he's worth, especially now that Red Bull are not fighting, or we don't expect them to be fighting at the front. And so they're not going to be desperate to find a driver to pick up points.
Give Liam one season and kick him out, yet Sergio Perez gets 3. That's crazy.
But Perez was actually decent.
There's a difference. Perez was more than an established driver.
Okay, true. But like, I think also with
his first season wasn't bad either.
No, it wasn't.
His first season wasn't bad.
I'm just on recency bias, but I think there's no way that.
And you're on Sergio Perez hating bias as well.
No, I don't know what you mean.
We know exactly what this is a frequent occurrence.
Hey, I've got to keep bringing that man up. He's not relevant anymore. But I'm going to keep bringing him up. But
he's not even in the sport anymore, and you keep naming him.
But I think with Lawson, there's no way. I completely agree. There is no way that I can see him getting replaced mid-season. That's just crazy. I think the only realistic mid-season replacement could be Doohan. But, like, even that, I really doubt that would happen.
I wouldn't even consider that mid-season. That's 5 races in.
Oh, that mad.
I'll be shocked if he makes it to Miami, to be honest.
Do it. Okay, well, on this subject, so I saw this one as well, which I thought was what people have been saying, but a step up. So, Jack Doohan and Franco Colapinto will race in the second Alpine, but also Paul Aaron.
What?
So they're saying that they're going to ditch Jack Doohan, which I think is fairly likely, go to Colapinto. Colapinto is then going to do that badly that they're going to call in Paul Aaron.
You know what? I'm on board with this.
Board with this. No, this is not happening.
Colapinto was rubbish. He had 3 good races for Williams and then turned to poo. Complete poo. So you know what? This is more like, listen, I like this. It's out of the box and I like it.
I don't think that Colapinto is going to be that. Jack Doohan being replaced by Franco Colapinto. I'm fully on board with that. I would that's a 1-point prediction at this point. But it's okay, maybe not. Maybe a 2-point prediction. But I don't think that Colapinto will be that bad because he did still. I feel it was more a case when he came in for Williams that he overachieved initially in those first few races, and then when he came to the end of the season, yes, okay, he ran into some bad form a little bit, but it was less than where he was expected, to be honest. It wasn't absolutely tragic levels of form.
It wasn't. Like, you have to admit, it all just turned to chaos. Alex had a really bad run of form.
Yeah, that's fair.
They both had horrendous runs of form towards the end of the season in the last few races. And I just think Colapinto getting replaced, I doubt it.
I'd be very surprised.
I'd be really shocked because they've paid 1.5 mil to buy him out the contract.
It's out the nose for him.
That's a good point.
I don't see the value. Unless, I guess he does bring commercial value because of like the Mercado Libre sponsorship.
Yeah, just Argentina.
Yeah. He brings an entire country with him.
Literally.
So, no, that's fair enough. So maybe not that one, but going back to the subject of Yuki Tsunoda, rather than him maybe going to Red Bull halfway through the season to replace Liam Lawson, some people think that he might go to Aston Martin.
Honda Link.
Some
Right.
people,
Exactly.
it's the whole of this podcast. We've discussed that so many times.
Yeah, but it's also on Twitter,
Lance
and so
Stroll.
therefore it's
Twitter, listen
and
to the
therefore,
F1 show.
and
let's
therefore
go.
it's official. So that's
Yeah.
what's going on.
Are we saying replacing Alonso?
This is the
Replacing Stroll? Well, theoretically, you guys want
Because
to replace
one of
Stroll,
my
right?
other ones that I've got on here is Lance's contract gets an end date. that's the tweet.
Oh.
I don't think that's the thing.
He's on a lifetime contract.
That's
be
no,
honest.
but we joke, but that's actually the case.
He's on a lifetime contract till he can't be bothered. Like,
Pretty much.
Yeah,
genuinely.
he looks really.
It will just be the case
disinterested.
if he leaves the sport, which he might just get so fed up of how bad he is that he might go to another racing series. So maybe that might be the case. I'd love to see Yuki Tsunoda at Aston Martin though. I think definitely he deserves a seat better than the RB currently for how much experience he has in the sport, and I think that for Aston Martin, he also could be very useful being part of the Red Bull Driver Academy, and also that as we mentioned, the links to Honda. And whether it happens though is another story.
Right. Taking into account the fact we're sniffing so much hopium at the moment about the fact that he's going into this Aston Martin seat, which won't happen. Stroll is staying there forever
Yeah.
until the end of time.
And you're not getting rid of Alonso, are you?
Yeah.
No way. That's out. That's
Hear me
completely
out.
out of the question.
He rejoins his best mate Pierre Gasly at Alpine. Colapinto ends up being rubbish. They don't do this
New
Aaron
prediction.
thing. 2026.
New prediction: Jack Doohan, Franco Colapinto, Paul Aaron, and Yuki Tsunoda all drive the second Alpine seat.
Oh, I'm saying this for 26. He's not going to get kicked out midway.
Oh, I
there.
see.
For 2026, I think that's a possibility. I think it's probably his
Maybe.
best shot at a decent level drive, in truth. I don't think Red Bull will want to promote him, in all honesty, because of the lack of a Honda link. And for whatever reason, I get the impression that if Lawson does fail, they're more likely to bring Hadjar in more than him.
I think they are. For Yuki, if I was him, I know there's a lot of drivers out of contract for 25. He needs to get pen to paper quick because he's got a really big reputation. He's got a big media presence currently. He's being hyped. He's being pushed. Let's say he waits until the summer break to actually put pen to paper with whoever. Let's say he has a shocking start of the season. His stock is down. Like, if he wants to move out of that, he's basically at this point got a guaranteed seat at RB. Because I don't think going into 26 new regs, they'd want to replace him. They'd want the experience there.
It depends. No, that's entirely dependent on whether Lindblad performs on F2. If
that's
Lindblad goes
true.
and wins the championship, they're going to get rid of Yuki.
Would they?
I think they would. I think they see something in Hadjar.
I don't see what they see then. We're wearing different pairs of glasses.
But RB at the end of the day, as Red Bull sees it, is just the preparation of their drivers. And so if he's not, if Tsunoda, clearly he's not
the future.
Clearly he's not going to get to a Red Bull seat. Like, you literally chose Liam Lawson over him, and given Yuki Tsunoda's experience in the sport, we know that he's a proven performer, and I think that was the best chance that he was going to get of getting into that second Red Bull seat, and it hasn't happened. And so I think it's even less likely now that that's going to happen for him, especially that they're putting Liam Lawson in the seat, someone who they're obviously thinking some very long-term plans with. So I think he's got to
go elsewhere.
He has to go elsewhere.
But in my view, like, the point I'm making is that he has to go elsewhere early, like before summer break, because obviously I don't know how the teams do the recruitment with the drivers, but it's clear that Red Bull don't rate Yuki as much. So the other teams are going to be like, well, if Red Bull don't rate him as much, why should we rate him as much? So while his stock is high at this point in time, sign the contract. Like, move elsewhere. Move wherever you want to go. Convince the teams that have, like, drivers that are ending in 25. Be like, yo, I am a good driver.
Okay. First off, he's not going to start the contract negotiations with Yo, is he?
He will get the job if he starts the contract with Yo.
I don't think so.
I think he will. He should.
What's
as he's his
Japanese
lawyer.
for Yo? I don't know.
He's more likely to
Yo.
use some COD language more than anything else.
Yeah, that's a good point. Whether that will get him the contract more or less, I don't know. Yeah, we do hope that he does end up somewhere else, because I don't think his talents are really being used to their full effectiveness at RB. Another one, which I found quite interesting, is that Haas are in podium contention
What?
by the end of the season. These get more and more outrageous as we go.
And I like, and again, I like it. I like it.
You like the copium?
I like. No, it's not even coping. I can see the vision. Okay, Toyota sponsorship. Toyota Gazoo Racing is already on the rear wing. Toyota are going to extend their sponsorship, their partnership with Haas. We're going to somehow.
This is by the end of the season.
Yeah, I'm seeing it. I actually like what Ayo Komatsu's done with this team. I think he's corrected the ship. He's course corrected here, and I think they're on an upward trajectory. They finished off the season pretty decently.
They're on an upward trajectory. It doesn't mean they're going to get a podium.
No, but a podium doesn't have to be like third fastest car on that weekend. It can be a surprise
podium.
Exactly, it can
That
be
is
a
true,
surprise
actually,
result.
because I reckon there's a good chance that they could be fifth, and therefore, if the stars align, if in certain conditions for a race, and they could certainly get a podium. And also, we did mention that Hulkenberg has now gone from the team, so they can get podiums now because they're not having to suffer from the Hulkenberg curse, which is something else we should be considering. But no, I think they could get a podium.
And the
It
lineup's
depends what you
good.
mean by podium contention.
Their lineup is pretty good as well. They do have the driver talent to make that happen.
Yeah, still not sure. I'm still not fully convinced by Ollie Behrman. I think he might. I think maybe he's been a bit overhyped, and I want to be proven wrong. I really do want him to get on well in the sport, but I still think that he's been a little bit overhyped since his performance in Saudi Arabia, and not sure he's going to do amazing things. I think Ocon will do better than him. But
You'd
yeah,
expect Ocon to do better. If Ocon immediately gets outperformed by Ollie Behrman, then what?
Oh no, absolutely. But yeah, maybe Behrman takes a little bit of time to get up to speed then.
I do think this is it's a very interesting driver battle because I think outside of that race in Brazil, which he underperformed in, I think it was a difficult set of conditions for him to race in. So I'm kind of willing to excuse that. I felt he displayed a decent amount of potential every time he got into an F1 car. So I can see it. I think Ocon's a very established driver. There's definitely a good driver in there. So I'm intrigued to see how evenly balanced that is come season end. Because I can see them being close on points.
It will certainly be interesting, especially on the upward trajectory that Haas are at. And I'd certainly love to see them battling for consistent points, a bit like what they were last season, but just having a bit more consistency, I suppose, in that sense. Another one being on similar lines, actually, that Behrman gets Haas's first podium. This is another one that I saw, which I think maybe Behrman's a bit more likely. Ocon's a bit more likely to get that podium. But I certainly wouldn't mind seeing a Behrman podium at all. You mentioned that one was quite outrageous. Tell me if this is more or less outrageous. Max moves to the World Endurance Championship for 2026.
For 26.
For 26. So it's not even actually a 25 prediction, but
he
it
has-
was too good not to put on there, you know.
He has a contract.
It's not happening.
If this swearing ban from the FIA takes into effect, he will be one of the first ones to go.
Okay, but does he forget that if he did that, he's probably forgetting the fact that the World Endurance Championship is also under FIA regulations?
Okay, fine. He gets a quarter of the fine.
Because I know in the past week, the World Rally Championship. Oh no, World Raid Rally. It was one. I think it might
I
be
thought
the
it was
World.
WRC.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, it was WRC. They put out a statement because one of their drivers got fined 10k for swearing on radio. So they've already put out a statement saying we condemn this. FIA, what are you doing?
Well, if the
So
if
if
the
they're doing
F175 live event is anything to go by, I think everyone in their nan hates the FIA at the moment. So hopefully, with this much, if there is the consequences that it describes, and that many people are outraged, then surely you've got to. You've got to have that change at some point. The FIA can't come under that much pressure. I did also see a tweet. I didn't actually note it down, but I did also see another tweet was that we get a new FIA president by the end of the season. Not even a driver change, just new FIA president. Mohammed bin Sulayem gone, which I think maybe is more of a hope than
I think
He's running a dictatorship over there.
probably.
that's actually possibly more not reasonable, but it might actually. They're onto something. So the FIA president, Mohammed bin Sulayem, did take post in 2021 in December, and the terms are 4 years. So actually, election for FIA president is this year. So it wouldn't be mid-season he'd get replaced unless he was kicked, which I really doubt that would happen. But it would be December time that he would be replaced. He can run again, so you can run for 12 years, so you can run for 3 terms. And usually the current FIA president, when they run, even if they run contested, like, automatically gets it. I don't know if that'll happen this time, but yeah, so this might be the final year of MBS.
Please,
I beg.
And hopefully the next person coming in will actually like sort out these stupid race swearing bans that and listen to the fans for once. But
Literally.
Anyway, what we were talking about before, I don't even know. Moving on, I suppose, onto our next topic. We will go with.
We're talking about Max Verstappen.
Yes, Max Verstappen moving to the World Endurance Championship. So we're saying a resounding no for that, I suppose.
Resounding no would be more. I think also for Max, he loves racing. He's a racer. When you do World Endurance Championship, you do less racing. So if anything, he would go to a series where there's more racing.
I think maybe this is from one of your friends, a fellow McLaren fan, which is maybe just like a full-time Max Verstappen hater and just not wanting to see Max Verstappen in the sport anymore.
Probably.
And just hoping that he moves elsewhere.
Hey, I don't condone abuse.
Okay.
I don't condone abuse.
Next topic. Antonelli wins a race. This is more of a serious suggestion, I think, compared to some of the ones that we've gone through.
If Antonelli wins a race, then big up Mercedes for like actually sorting your problems out with the car, because it's only taken them 3 years.
I would love to see Antonelli win a race personally.
I think this will be circumstantial.
Yes.
I think it's like probably a 20% chance of happening, I'd say. I'd put it as high as well.
High.
Yeah, I'd put it. I think with a closer field spread, we're going to have more wacky races, I think.
Yeah. No, I think wacky races.
Big up wacky
Lo-
races.
Love,
I was just
love
thinking
that.
about
Hope people got the throw.
No, but I think you're right. A bit like with George Russell last season, his win in, what was it, Austria, I think, and a bit of one like that where he's doing well and he's running near podium places, and it's just pure either maybe because the safety car's brought out when it's convenient for him or something like that he does get handed. He won't completely dominate a race, but then you wouldn't expect him to because it's his first season. He's made a huge jump to Mercedes from his time in F2, even though he is a very talented driver. And we don't even know if Mercedes are actually going to be in contention for wins at all. I mean, they only really were in the middle stages of last season, and Mercedes are still very much on an upward trend of getting back to anywhere near where they were.
So question to both of you then. We had, in 2024, we had 7 different race winners. Do you think we're going to... That was the most ever. Do you think we're going to beat that? Do you think we'll have 8? Do you think we'll have less?
No, we won't have...
Because everyone's saying that this is going to be a really competitive season, but, like, last season we had 7 race winners. Like, how much more competitive can we get?
I'm saying 6. We're going to have the 2 Ferraris, 2 Red Bulls. 2 Ferraris, 2 McLarens, 1 Red Bull, 1 Merc.
I was thinking the
That's
same thing
reasonable.
because realistically, no one, unless we have very freak circumstances like the Monza races with Ricciardo and Gasly winning, stuff like that, we're only gonna have...
Monza wasn't a freak win for Ricciardo. They were on pace.
Yeah.
Mercedes, Hamilton and Verstappen crashed each other out.
No, but they weren't going to catch up on the
I do see her point. It was predominantly on pace, but I think they did have the benefit of having 2 contenders who had the potential pace.
Norris was second.
Them. Yeah, but he
would have taken them.
Yeah, no. You can
Hamilton
you're gonna have to acknowledge the
Mercedes.
fact that it was at least a threat.
There was a threat, of
was a
course,
threat.
but Ricciardo was
But
controlling
anyway,
out
we're getting
front.
besides the point.
Looking at the
Getting
data,
besides-
Ricciardo was going to win that race no matter what.
Okay,
So
getting besides the point. We are... What was I even talking about again? I don't even know. This is
freak
the-
race wins.
Freak race wins, yeah. Unless we have that... I don't think Antonelli's... It's more likely that Antonelli doesn't win a race. Lawson, maybe... Again, I think Lawson's kind of similar to Antonelli in that he might get a freak race win, but other times he won't be up there. So I can only see it exactly as Anwar said. The 2 Ferraris, 2 McLarens, Verstappen and George Russell.
What?
That
So
being it.
Carlos Sainz in a Williams isn't going to win a race?
Trust me,
That's exactly what I'm saying.
I want to see
There's
that.
no doubt about
I
that.
want to see. I want to see that more than anyone, but I don't unfortunately think it's going to happen. I think Williams can make
Crushing my
serious
hopes and dreams.
progress. Williams can make serious progress, but unfortunately, I think it's going to be another couple of seasons until they're actually threatening for race wins. Again, excluding very extreme circumstances, I suppose. Another one that I saw was Lewis Hamilton's scandal in Italian media. I don't know why people are wanting this. People think that Hamilton is obviously going to not do very well, and they want to get him out through measures that aren't exactly right and correct. I don't even know.
I don't know what this person's on.
I saw this multiple times on Twitter.
Italian media are brutal.
Yeah,
They are very brutal. And the Italian fan base can also be a little bit racist,
the thing
as
is,
shown by Serie A football.
Yeah, but the thing is, like, Lewis can't speak. He can speak a bit of Italian. He's learning Italian, so it's not like he'd understand what the Italian media was saying anyway. So it's fine.
I think
Yeah, but they can still force him out of his...
translators exist. That is
Really
a job.
crazy, mad. No, but I don't know. I don't see this a big controversy.
And also, this is banking on the fact that Hamilton does badly, because they're going to have to get angry at him for some reason. So I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think necessarily Hamilton will be outrageously good, but he certainly won't be bad. He'll be what Ferrari expect him to be, which is consistently challenging for race wins, I would say. And so I think that's...
Every single time I think about, like, how Ferrari are going to approach the season, I just change my mind. I don't know.
It's very much up in the air, because...
Ferrari always have a really good start to a season, so
yeah,
I'd be interested to see what happens down in Australia.
Well, I think last year it was actually the reverse, because Ferrari really came into their own at the end of the season. And so I think that's part of the reason why we have this kind of... as well as the fact that Hamilton's going there, but that also their performances at the end of last season is why the hype train started to get going. And so... It really depends. But I do think that they will be up there. It's just how much they are able to challenge, ultimately, McLaren, which are the main people to beat. So, and then we'll move on to our final one, which is going to be McLaren outside of the top three, which is a big statement, because I feel like McLaren is the one that everyone is certain of. Because we're saying, like, we're not sure whether Ferrari are going to get up to speed, whether Hamilton's going to get up to speed, not sure whether Red Bull will still be able to fight for race wins, or we expect them to drop back. But no one's really had much talk about McLaren, and because they expect them to be up there. I mean, clearly, because they are the reigning Constructors' Championship, and so they expect that the pace is going to be good. They obviously have a very strong lineup. So, obviously, this, I think, will be to do with if the car isn't up to it. But then we know how good their upgrade's going to be. I'm going back and forth between this, but I surely it's not going to happen.
Their in-season development is too good. I could see, like, I've heard they've made aggressive changes to this car, particularly towards the front end.
Yeah.
So, if we live in a hypothetical world where these changes don't work out, they suddenly drop off the ball, they're the fourth fastest car. Their in-season development has shown that their wind tunnel correlation is really good. So they should be able to at least make it up. So they could start slow, who knows? But I would probably say this is as far as unlikely as it's like the most unlikely one we've gone through.
We're not going to have any quote from Kat.
No, but it's just stupid. It's just people spurting rubbish online.
No, you're right.
Spot
it is
the McLaren fan.
No, but
you're right.
Am I actually wrong at this point? Though, like, if McLaren drop from first to fourth, with all of the incredible personnel that are coming in, especially from Red Bull, from Ferrari, from Mercedes, like they're bulking up. They've got a consistent driver lineup. They've got good development, like we've said. They've got a great foundation. What will have gone wrong? Like, the factory will have exploded if they go down to fourth.
Whatever was exploding the kitchen last season gets to the garage and just blows up both cars. It's very unlikely. But well, that rounds off, I think, the outrageous somewhat predictions that we've been getting from Twitter. So remember, we're going to have episodes coming out over the next few weeks. It's been going to be starting to get very busy in the world of Formula One. We've got talks to do about pre-season testing, and obviously a preview going into Melbourne in just over a couple of weeks' time. So make sure to join us for that. But until then, thank you very much, Katch and Anwar, for joining me. And unlike some episodes, I'm going to leave our audience with my final prediction that I found from Twitter, which I thought was a good one to save until last. And I'm now quoting here: Lance and Esty together on the podium. Please, Pleze. Oh my god, I need them together on the podium. Again, please, I'll sacrifice my non-existent newborn, please. Thank you very much for listening.